So this first video lecture is on the structure of the different types of muscle that we have in the musculoskeletal system. Okay, so we have three types of muscle. First one is cardiac muscle, which is also known as the heart. Second is smooth muscle, which is also known as involuntary muscle. And then the third is skeletal muscle or voluntary muscle. And we're going to look a little bit more in depth at these three different types of muscle now. So cardiac muscle, anytime you see the term cardiac, automatically think heart. Cardiac always relates to the heart and nothing else. So cardiac muscle naturally is the muscle of the heart. And it appears striated. So if you remember from what we were talking about in lessons, striated means like stripy. So you can see lines going through the muscle. So if you were to cut through that heart now, the image of the heart, you would see this striated appearance. And it's involuntary. So what the term involuntary means is that we don't control it ourselves. You can't think to yourself, right, heart, beat quicker. You can manipulate your heartbeat to make it beat quicker because you could do a little bit of exercise and that will cause your heart rate to increase. However, you can't actually tell your heart to beat quicker. Heart is controlled by a pacemaker called the SA node, which is the sinoatrial node, and that's what controls the pace of the heart. So you've got three layers of the heart wall. First, that very outer layer is the pericardium. Now, if you remember in lesson, we did that experiment with your socks on the floor outside the classroom. The reason we did that was to talk about friction. Now, the pericardium reduces friction. Now, this is really important because if you're exercising, you need more blood, more energy to go around your body. Now, if your heart's beating quicker to allow this, however, there's a lot of friction between the heart and your other organs and your muscles and your rib cage, then it's going to slow the heart down. Think of friction like Velcro. So if the heart's one part of the Velcro and the other organ's the other part of the Velcro, it's going to make it much harder for the heart to pull away and it's not going to be able to beat as quick. Therefore, you won't get as much energy or oxygen in the body. You can't get rid of your waste products. Therefore, reducing friction is an important role. It also helps maintain the shape of the heart. So the heart's shaped like it is to allow full functionality, to allow the blood to go around the body in the best way possible. If we lose that shape, blood can't get around the body, therefore we can't get energy and nutrients around the body and we can't remove our waste products. Middle layer is called the myocardium. Now this is the largest, the thickest layer, and we'll go and talk about this in a little bit more depth on the next couple of slides. And then the inner layer is the endocardium. Again, this prevents friction. At this time, it prevents the friction between the flowing blood and the actual heart muscle. So again, if you think of the Velcro example I just used, if the blood was to stick to the inside of the walls of the heart rather than get pumped out, once again, for the exact same reasons I talked about just now, you're not going to get blood around the body. Therefore, you're not going to get oxygen, nutrients around the body or remove waste products. Therefore, if you were doing exercise, your productivity would go right down and you wouldn't be able to perform to the best of your ability. So here, this nice clear layer here just shows the pericardium. If we look in here, it's a cross section of the myocardium. So you can see where I said it was striated all around here. Like I said, it looks stripy, and you can also see the endocardium. So here's some terms here just to help you. As I said, cardium always means heart. Peri means like on or around, and myo means muscle. So you'll see myo a few times. You'll see myoglobin later on when we talk about muscles. Then endo is within, so that can help you remember the order. So peri, myo, endo. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the very middle layer now, the myocardium. You can see the striated appearance here, but you can also see these blue little lines. So these lines, excuse me, by here. These are the intercalated discs. Now what the intercalated discs will do is they will they will share the nutrients equally among the heart. Now this is a really important role. I want you to think about if the heart's not functioning as a whole properly. If the nutrients aren't shared to the whole heart can't pump properly. This is going to prevent blood from going around, and for the previous reasons we've already talked about, oxygen, energy, nutrients, that won't get to your working muscles, and we can't get rid of those waste products. So if you relate it to sport and performance, which you need to for your assignments, it will go dramatically down. What the intercalated discs also do as well, they allow the electrical current to go through the heart. So it allows it to go through like a wave, so the heart will beat like the wave, like we already talked about before. So if this didn't happen and these beats weren't like a maximum wave and they weren't going regularly, again, performance will be reduced significantly for the previous reasons we've already talked about. Right. You don't need to go too much in depth about this, but you need to know this for your YMCA exams. Heart needs fresh oxygen, and the things it uses are things called coronary arteries. Okay, the coronary arteries are continually, constantly giving the heart fresh oxygen. Now, if these get blocked, now this big issue for the heart, you're going to get a lot of pain because the muscle can't contract properly because of this. And there's no energy for the heart to beat either. So there's two common issues. We can have myocardial ischemia, or we can have angina. If you download these slides, if you click on angina there, it'll take you to a YouTube video which goes into more depth, and it shows it really well visually. And basically, it just shows how the coronary arteries can get blocked, so blood cells don't get in so frequently, and therefore we don't get as much oxygen as we should. Moving on to smooth muscle. So it's involuntary. So we've already talked about our cardiac muscles. There's no point in going on about that for too long. It's unstriated, it's smooth, so it doesn't look stripy. It can be found in your blood vessels. Now, it helps to maintain blood pressure. What I want you to think about now is if you put your thumb over the end of a hose pipe in the summer, think how quick that water will come out. So if you reduce the space, pressure increases to increase speed. So the muscles, they can contract, and they do something called vasoconstriction, and that'll reduce the diameter of the blood vessels. That'll increase blood pressure and help it go quicker to the working muscles. However, the muscles can also do something called vasodilation. What this does is widen the diameter and can slow that blood down. It's also found in the digestive system, and through a maneuver called peristalsis, it squeezes food through the organs, so like through the small intestine, large intestine. This is obviously needed. If you don't do that, you can't digest your food properly and you can't get rid of the waste products. It's controlled by something called the autonomic nervous system. Now, the autonomic, think of that word as sounding like automatic. You don't control that nervous system. Now, you've got something called chemoreceptors. Now, they measure chemicals in the body. You've got baroreceptors. Now, what they do is measure your blood pressure. Now, they detect changes, and due to these different changes, they can cause your smooth muscle to start working. So, for example, if your baroreceptors realize that your blood pressure is dipping too much, it will cause the vasoconstriction of the smooth muscle in your blood vessels to help increase blood pressure back to normal values. Right, okay, this is skeletal muscle. So this skeletal muscle here looks like a nice bit of ham from Tom and Jerry. And the main things you need to know is the epimysium goes around the whole of the outside of the muscle. The next we got is the perimysium. So you can see the perimysium in between each different layer here. Now what the perimysium does is go around a bundle of muscle fibers. So you can see here is labeled bundle of muscle fibers. This is a single muscle fiber here. Now going around this is the endomysium. It's very important you know these three different layers, and we'll talk about them in a little bit more depth now in the next slides. What I'd like you to do is when you download these slides, click the image. It'll take you to my Purpose Games to help you label this. A myofilament is a contractile protein. Contains the contractile proteins myosin and actin. You don't need to know too much about these at this stage. However, it's just in your YMCA book. I'm more interested in the structure of the muscle in terms of the endo, the peri, and the epimysium. So you can see the fascia here, and they just go from biggest to smallest. So when you see the word epi, I want you to think epic. So because this epic goes around the entire muscle. Peri is around the middle, around the bundle of muscle fibers, and endo, just think end goes around each muscle fiber. Again, this is striated, so it looks stripy. This time it's voluntary. You decide what movements you do. You decide if you want to pick up an object. You decide if you want to pick up a cup and drink your coffee from it. There are four connective structures I need you to consider for this. So collagen, first of all, it's the most common, and basically what it does, it makes up tendons and ligaments. So it makes up different things in the body, but tendons and ligaments are really important in terms of muscle. So a tendon basically holds muscle to bone, and a ligament is bone to bone. Now the fascia we've already talked about, of like the epi, peri, and endomysium, and basically they're like a cobweb they provide a bit of stability for your muscle. So if you didn't have that stability for your muscle, it could lose shape. And if you lose shape, you're not able to transmit your forces effectively. So if you lose shape and you're trying to do a barbell curl, you're not going to be able to put as much force as you can, and you wouldn't be able to lift up as much in terms of weight. So this is an example of how we made some skeletal muscle previously. This is what we did last year. So you can see around this paper is the endomysium. Then you can see the bundle of muscle fibers in here associated with the pencils. So this next layer of paper here is the perimysium, and then going around the pencil there is the endomysium. A motor unit, a very common question in your YMCA exams, and we do need to know about it for this assignment. So a motor unit is the motor neuron, all the fibers to which it connects to. So a motor neuron receives the message from the brain about the contraction and will control all the fibers to which it attaches to. And here's just an example here. So you can see the spinal cord there, where your spinal cord we talked about before, you can get paralyzed if it gets broken. That's because of the spinal cord running through it. The spinal cord sends the messages from the brain and goes to your motor unit there. And you will see the motor unit then will attach to all these different fibers and will help them to contract. Depend on how quick those nerve impulses come from the brain, depends on how hard and how forcefully a muscle can contract. Also, this makes perfect sense. The more motor units you activate, the higher the contraction you can have. It just naturally makes sense. The more we activate, the more we can have. When you download these slides, if you just click on the Quizlet here, it takes you straight to the class that I asked you to join, and you can practice doing the different terminologies. That's the end of the lesson for muscle structure.